Well, welcome to C Files, folks. Thanks for joining us. Let me take care of this. There we go. All right. Um, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with others. Tell others about the video if about this channel if it's something you think they would enjoy and benefit from. We don't deal with the temporal here, we deal with the eternal. The temporal chaos of the world is just that. It is temporal. But the eternal is where you go to find eternal life and where you go to find peace. And that's where we're at. We're going through God's revelation to us in the scriptures. And so I hope you enjoy it. These are my daily devotions that I do for myself. And I want to thank all of you for holding me accountable for doing these daily devotions. But I also want them to benefit you as well. Whether you're following along in your Bibles or you're just driving in your car listening to this devotion time, I hope it's a blessing to you. We're going to be in Nehemiah chapter 5 in this video. That's where we will start. Then of course, we'll go to Psalms and Proverbs as we usually do. Have you ever dealt with oppression? You ever dealt with someone who's trying to oppress you? Nehemiah 5 is a chapter where Nehemiah deals with oppression. And so let's take a look at how he handles that pressure that comes down on him. And there was a great outcry of the people and their wives against their Jewish brethren. For there were those who said, We, our sons and our daughters, are many. Therefore, let us get grain that we may eat and live. Please excuse me. There we go. The temporal is trying to interrupt me. When the phone dings, I don't like it. It disrupts my reading. Verse 2 again. For there were those who said, we, our sons and our daughters are many. Therefore, let us get grain that we may eat and live. So they needed food. Remember, they had just come out of the land, come back to the land. It was a 70-year captivity that they went into when Babylon took them into captivity in 586 BC. Israel in 721 BC. So Judah was 586, Israel was 721. Babylon took them into captivity because they had rebelled against God and delved into all kinds of evil and wickedness. And God had finally had enough and drove them into captivity. Persia took down Babylon during that 70 years. And so then Persia was ruling, and Persia, King Cyrus of Persia decided to send them back to the land because God had put that on his heart. It was 100 years of migration back to the land of Israel, coming out of captivity. And this was the um, fulfillment of the land promise that God had given them. Nehemiah was in the third wave, the last part of the migration. So he comes back and they're building the wall of Jerusalem, but they're in a desolate land. They need food. So we'll go to verse 3. There were also some who said, We have mortgaged our lands and vineyards and houses that we might buy grain because of the famine. So they have a famine, they don't have food, they're losing money. So now Nehemiah is not only facing pressure from outside by those who are trying to shut down his operation of rebuilding the wall, but also from the inside, from those who are having trouble because the land is desolate. What would you do in this situation? Well, let's see how Nehemiah handled it. There were also those who said, "We have borrowed money for the king's tax on our lands and vineyards." Wow, I can relate to that one. Taxation can be very oppressive and very difficult when you don't have money, and yet the government says you owe us money in taxes. That's rough. So they're selling their lands. They're doing whatever they can, not so they could buy food to eat or to put clothes on their back, but so they could pay the king's taxes. Can any of you relate to that one for today with, oppressive taxes that are difficult on the poor or even the middle class? Verse 5. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children, and indeed we are forcing our sons and our daughters to be slaves. Some of our daughters have been brought into slavery. In the ancient world, one of the ways that they would get out of money problems, which I just described, were they didn't even have money to pay their taxes. They didn't have money to keep a roof over their head. They couldn't pay the taxes to the king, the tribute to the king, or anything. They ended up selling their daughters so that they could have the money to pay the taxes on the king's tribute. So the daughters are going into slavery. Imagine the circumstances here. Imagine how bad this got. When we first started reading about them rebuilding the wall, they say, "Oh, this is wonderful. Everybody's working together. Everybody's donning their swords so that they could stop the outside oppression from trying to come in and stop them from building a wall. That's being successful. Everything's going great." No, it's not. They have internal problems too. Sometimes God puts difficult circumstances in our lives just so he can show us that he is God as he provides for us through those hard circumstances. Well, what happens here? They're selling their lands, the daughters are going into slavery, so that they can have the money to pay the taxes. It's incredible. It is not in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards. In other words, we can't even help our fellow Jew out, our fellow Israelite out, to try and buy their daughters back because we don't have money either. Nobody had anything to be able to do anything. I mean, this was a dire situation. And here's Nehemiah, the civil engineer, and now a political leader that has to resolve these problems. How would you like to have his issues? How would you like to have to try to solve that? And I became very angry when I heard their outcry in these words. After serious thought, I rebuked the nobles and rulers and said to them, "Who's doing this to them? The rich nobles and rulers of the land." Oh, not talking about outside the walls of Jerusalem. This was happening inside the walls of Jerusalem. The rich were oppressing the poor. Each of you is exacting usury from his brother. Usury is charging exorbitant interest, demanding a ton out of someone off of a debt that they owe. Usury is condemned in the scriptures. When you're paying, oh, 39.99% or 29, was it 29.99%? I think if my memory serves me correctly. typically on a credit card in interest, that's usury. That's taking advantage of people who don't have money and sucking them dry on interest, on charge on a credit card, or a predatory loan where you don't have much money, you go to the used car dealer and you don't have very good credit. And it's the only place you can go get a car on and finance it. But what are they going to do? They're going to charge you exorbitant interest on your loan. That is called usury. That is condemned in the scriptures. So how does Nehemiah handle this? Oh, how does he handle it? He takes charge. And I became very angry when I heard their outcry in these words. After serious thought, I rebuked the nobles and rulers and said to them, each of you is exacting usury from his brother. So I called a great assembly against them. He told the people who were taking advantage of the situation and oppressing the poor, um, you're done. You're not doing this anymore. And I said to them, according to our ability, we have redeemed our Jewish brethren who were sold in to the nations. Now, indeed, will you even sell your brethren, or should they be sold to us? He's saying we just literally just came out of 70 years of slavery in Babylon and Persia. And now you are doing the same thing to your own kind, your own kin, your own people that the Babylonians and the Persians were doing to them. How are you any better than the former captives or former uh, owners of the captives, the Babylonians and the Persians? He rebuked them, basically told them, what you're doing is wrong and you need to stop. It's what causes that? Greed, greed, pride, and greed. We're better than them because we have more money, we're richer, we're better. Um, we're going to get ours. We don't care if we crush those folks in the process. That's what causes the problem. And this is what was going on behind the walls of Jerusalem. Then they were silenced and found nothing to say, or at least they had a conscience. Then I said, what you are doing is not good. Should you not walk in the fear of our God because of the reproach of the nations, our enemies? The problem today, unlike at that time, in that circumstance, is that many people today don't have a fear of God. And so they will oppress people financially like this and not think a thing about it. And when someone rebukes them or tells them, hey, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing this, go away. I have no fear of God. That's what we're dealing with today. But how did they respond? He says in verse 10, I also, with my brethren and my servants, am lending them money and grain. Now, Nehemiah has money and grain, and he's saying, I'm lending to them, but I'm doing it in a way that's not going to oppress them. I'm trying to help them. Please let us stop this usury, this taking advantage, lending. See, he didn't ask interest back when he lent. And the seventh year of Jubilee would have all been forgiven, all the debt. But they were taking full advantage. They were even taking their daughter, saying, "Oh, you can't pay up? Okay, fine. Your daughter will be payment." I I don't I have two daughters and I have a bunch of granddaughters, and I guarantee you I'd be ready to fight at that point. There's going to be a war. You try to do that with one of them. I also, with my brethren and my servants, am lending them money and grain. Please let us stop this usury. Restore now to them, even this day, their lands, their vineyards, their olive groves, and their houses, also 100th of the money and the grain, the new wine, and the oil that you have charged them. And that would include the daughters as well. So they said, "We will restore it and will require nothing of them. We will do as you say." So Nehemiah solved the problem, but he was only able to solve it because they had a fear of God. And why did they have a fear of God? They just went through 70 years of captivity because they lost their fear of God. They just went through severe punishment, a horrific circumstance because of that. God gifts some people with the ability to advance financially. Some people just naturally have a good sense of finances and money and how to do that stuff. That's a gift from God to be able to do that. To take advantage of that and oppress the poor, which often happen in Israel, it's just pure evil. And God hates it. It's wrong. This is how this is how communism became popular, is because the rich were oppressing the poor, and the poor were easily manipulated into walking into one of the most disastrous and evil governmental systems ever created. It was worse than when they were being oppressed by the rich. Anyway, back down to we'll go verse 12. So they said, "We will restore it and will require nothing from them. We will do as you say." Then I called the priest and required an oath from them that they would do according to this promise. Then I shook out the fold of my garment and said, "So may God shake out each man from his house, from his property, who does not perform this promise, even thus may he be shaken out and emptied." So if they didn't keep their promise to Nehemiah, they would lose everything. This is what the priests were saying. And all the assembly said, "Amen," and praised the Lord. Then the people did according to this promise. And what's the lesson here? There are always pressures outside and inside. Take your family, for example. There are going to be pressures outside of your family. Um, Income taxes. Those are outside pressures. Um, Debt is an outside pressure uh, that can bring harm to your family. Um, Other things of that nature, the car braking, whatever. Inside pressures could be a rebellious child. Inside pressures could be strife in the marriage. Inside pressure could be um, just a whole lot of relational problems and so forth. So you have outside pressures and inside pressures. You have to have a mindset of handling those situations. Well, how do you do that? Well, if you go to the source of all true knowledge and wisdom, please excuse me. If you go to the source of all true knowledge and wisdom, you will learn how to do that if you decipher the scriptures. The world has tried psychology, the world has tried uh, a debt financial system by usury, basically, charging an exorbitant interest. The world has tried a credit score system. The world has tried psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, and we still have all kinds of marital issues, all kinds of strife when it comes to relationships, all kinds of problems when it comes to the economy, all kinds of problems when it comes to finances. The world has tried it its way and has failed miserably. But what I have learned is that when people do things God's way, it works. And it confounds the world with all of their wisdom and their PhDs in economics and finance and all of that, and their PhDs in psychology and psychiatry and sociology. Where they are confounded, the scriptures are clear and give us a clear path to success. This is why I say true knowledge is not found in the universities. It's found in the wisdom of God. We're going to learn about the generosity of Nehemiah. Moreover, from the time that I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, from the 20th year until the 32nd year of King Artaxerxes, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the governor's provisions, but the former governors who were before me laid burdens on the people and took from them bread and wine, besides 40 shekels of silver. Yes, even their servants bore rule over the people, but I did not do so because of the fear of God. There's your difference. Those who don't fear God, those who don't believe in God, they will not have a conscience toward doing what's right for their neighbor, what's right for their fellow human being. But if you have a fear of God, you're going to have a different mental attitude. Indeed, I also continued to work on this wall, and we did not buy any land. That was his single focus, getting the wall built. He was very civic minded, Nehemiah was. He wasn't there to take advantage and enrich himself and be filled with selfishness and greed. No, he was there to help the people. All my servants were gathered there for the work, he says. Verse 17. And at my table were 150 Jews and rulers. Notice it says Jews. I know people want to argue, oh, Jews are just Judah, the tribe of Judah. Stop all that nonsense, folks. I hear that stuff. People are so prideful in knowing some little tidbit of something that other people don't know, and it becomes a point of pride in them. Stop that nonsense. Seriously. Humble yourselves and be generous and gracious toward others. It says Jews, which included the other tribes as well. It wasn't just Judah that returned to the land. And at my table were 150 Jews and rulers, besides those who came to us from the nations around us. Now that which was prepared daily was one ox and 6 choice sheep. Also fowl were prepared for me, and once every 10 days an abundance of all kinds of wine. Yet in spite of this, I did not demand the governor's provisions, because the bondage was heavy on this people. Remember me, my God, for good, according to all that I have done for this people. He was a buffer between the king or the governors and the people, and he was a leader to the people in that he resolved the internal issues as well. Nehemiah is an example of a true leader, selfless, focused, wise, bold, didn't take any nonsense, but was good to the people. That's a great leader. So we can learn a lot from Nehemiah. Let's go to Psalm, the mega Psalm 119, and this time we are in the Leth, beginning of verse 25. The Leth. My soul clings to dust. Revive me according to your word. I have what would he mean my soul clings to dust? He's in a dark place. He's so troubled in the soul, he's ready to die. That's what he means. He says, revive me according to your word. Revive my soul. Don't let me be in this dark place. Use according to your word, Lord. I have declared my ways, and you answered me. Teach me your statutes. Make me understand the way of your precepts. True healing comes from here, from the scriptures. So shall I meditate on your wonderful works. My soul melts from heaviness. Strengthen me according to your word. Remove from me the way of lying, and grant me your law graciously. I have chosen the way of truth. Your judgments I have laid before me. I cling to your testimonies, O Lord. Do not put me to shame. I will run the course of your commandments, for ye shall enlarge my heart. A great appeal to the Lord when you're in and when you're in heavy troubled times like that. Uphold me according to your word, strengthen me, give me your wisdom and your strength. Now we will be in Proverbs 17. Proverbs 17. Better is a dry morsel with quietness than a house full of feasting and with strife. So this is a home that is well off financially, but inside that home, there is internal relational strife. He says, better is a dry morsel with quietness, just a little something to eat and have peace and quiet than to be in a house that has a whole feast laid out on the table, but there's internal relational strife in the home. A wise servant will rule over a son who causes shame and will share an inheritance among the brothers. At the time, they had servants that served in rich houses, rich homes, and they were a part of the family in a sense that they were always there. And a wise servant takes good care of the kids of a son, not his son, but the son of his master. This is back when they still had that, and he would actually share in the inheritance if he was a good servant like that. This is what it was saying. The refining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. Okay, now this is the one where if you're going to purify silver or purify gold, you put it in something where you can heat it up, and the dross comes to the top, the impurities come to the top, and you scrape the impurities off. And the more you heat it up, the more you boil it and work on it, the purer it becomes as you continue to take the impurities out. God tests us. God puts us through tribulations. God puts us through hard times to scrape off the impurities that are inside of us and to make us more pure, make us better, make us holy as He is holy, if you will. It's out of love that God does that. Why would a loving God, blah, 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 right? You hear that a lot. Why would a loving God put these circumstances in my life? Well, if He didn't love you, He wouldn't put those circumstances in your life. And that's the whole point here. He He put those circumstances in your life so that He could love you and make you into something even better than you are now. And then you look back and you go, I didn't like it when I was going through it. But because I went through that, I'm a better person today. That's the love of God. An evildoer gives heed to false lips. A liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. Deception is a deceptive thing, isn't it? He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Don't oppress the poor, and don't be happy when evil comes on someone else. It'll come back on you. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. Yeah, be a dad to your children. This is talking specifically of men, so be a dad to your children. Be the best dad you can be. And you know what? You'll get to my age and realize I didn't do everything right. I made a lot of mistakes. There's things I look back on now and I understand now that I should have done for my kids as far as teaching them things and helping them become better that I didn't do, and I should have done those things. It's okay. The point is you put an effort in. You gave it your best try. You did the best you could with what you had, and that's the whole point. And what happens when you love your children that way, you're blessed with grandchildren. And they are still in your life. You're not pushed away by your children and you never see them again and you never see your grandkids. You actually have a relationship with your grandkids. And that is, I would rather have the relationship I have with my grandchildren than to have $1 billion. You can have the $1 billion. I want that relationship with my grandchildren is richer and more of a blessing than $1 billion would be. I don't, I don't, I don't want that. I don't care about the $1 billion. the blessing in the soul is so much better than having a bunch of material things in this world and have a troubled soul. Excellent speech is not becoming a fool. What that means is a fool is not going to give excellent speech. We would say it this way, excellent speech is not becoming of a fool. In other words, it's not the trademark of a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. Problem is today we see a lot of lying politicians, don't we? We see a lot of corruption in government. Not good. Not good. A present is a precious stone in the eyes of its possessor. Wherever he turns, he prospers. This is a gift given to someone. He who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. You can either forgive someone for transgression against you, seek to love on them, seek to take care, seek to be good to them, gracious, give some grace and mercy to them as the Lord gave grace and mercy to us. But you could also choose to gossip and to go around ruining their reputation with people by talking about them to everybody else as a form of manipulative revenge. The former is better than the latter. Rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows on a fool. Yeah, a wise man will receive counsel and rebuke and do self-reflection and will say, if he determines that it was a good rebuke, say, yeah, I was wrong here. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to work to not do that again. But a fool will become defensive and resistant. So, an evil man seeks only rebellion. Therefore, a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Yeah. Anarchy. Evil men want anarchy. Let a man meet a bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. Wow. Wow. I don't think I want to run across a bear robbed of her cubs. But the point is, that's a great illustration of actually how bad a fool is in his folly. It's even worse than run across a bear that was robbed of her cubs. Whoever rewards evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. It comes back on you. And it's not because of karma, it's because of God. God brings consequences. The beginning of strife is like releasing water. Therefore, stop contention before a quarrel starts. Swallow your pride, have a patient, gentle spirit, and try to rectify a quarrel before it becomes a big problem. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both of them alike are an abomination to the Lord. Abomination is something God hates. So don't justify the wicked. I see a lot of that in our world today, justifying the wicked. And don't condemn the just. I've also seen that in our modern world. Why is there in the hand of a fool the purchase price of wisdom, since he has no heart for it? Men pay for wisdom, like trying to go to the university, like trying to go to school to gain knowledge and understanding and wisdom. but they don't have a heart for it because you see, they want the wisdom that they want. In other words, the wisdom has to line up with what they think. They don't have a heart for it. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A strong family is intact. That will be the case. A man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge and becomes surety for his friend. Someone who's, and I've been there, trust me, I've been there. Someone who is void of understanding the financial principles found in the scriptures and shakes hands on a, signs a contract. Equivalent today would be signing a contract on a loan or something like that, and you're paying exorbitant interest on that loan. Um, that's what this is talking about. And so he says a man devoid of understanding does those things and becomes surety for his friend. In other words, he becomes um, the borrower and the friend is the lender. So the borrower is slave to the lender, an economic form of slavery. And he becomes um, uh, owing his friend. How can I say it? He's he's in bondage in a sense financially to his friend. He who loves transgression loves strife, and he who exalts his gate seeks destruction. We see many who like transgression and they love strife and destruction. I see this a lot today. He who has a deceitful heart finds no good, and he who has a perverse tongue falls into evil. I think as I'm just reading, you by now you folks, if you're consistent on these videos, it's starting to click in your head. You're starting to understand these. He who begets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Are you getting them? A wicked man, broken spirit. A lot of people have broken spirit today. A wicked man accepts a bribe behind the back to pervert the ways of justice. Oh my goodness. We are battling that one today and trying to clean up the corruption in government, aren't we? Wisdom is in the sight of him who has understanding, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth. He looks everywhere to be satisfied. All over the earth. He's looking all over the earth to try and satisfy his soul. He can't do it. But someone who's wise is content where he is. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her who bore him. So, if you're a son, don't be a grief to your father, and don't be bitterness to your mother. Also, to punish the righteous is not good, nor to strike princesses for their uprightness. He who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. If you have true understanding and knowledge, you have a calm spirit in all kinds of circumstances. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perceptive. Sometimes it's best not to say anything. God gave us two ears and one mouth. Sometimes the two ears should reign prominent. Thank you for watching. God bless you. I hope you enjoy these videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please promote this channel by liking and subscribing. That's all I'm asking that you do. And take time out of your day from all of the noise of the chaos of the world and come and get a little wisdom from the scriptures and calm your spirit with these videos. Thank you for watching. God bless. I'll see you next time on the C Files.